There comes a moment when you must stop reaching for people who keep pulling away. Stop sending another message just to feel remembered. Stop explaining your value to someone who has already decided to overlook it. And stop begging for the kind of attention that should have been given freely. Because every time you chase someone who is comfortable ignoring you, you slowly teach yourself a painful lesson, that their presence matters more than your peace. But it does not. You may think you are fighting for a connection. You may tell yourself that you are only trying to fix things, clear the misunderstanding, or remind them that you still care. But deep inside, you know when effort has become begging. You know when your messages are no longer expressions of love, but requests for reassurance. You know when you are no longer communicating, but trying to convince someone not to forget you. And that is where you must pause. Not because you have stopped caring, but because you have finally started caring about yourself. Attention that must be begged for will never make you feel secure. Even when you receive it, you will question it. Was it sincere? Did they respond because they wanted to, or because you pressured them? Will they disappear again tomorrow? This is the quiet cost of chasing attention. You may receive a few words, a brief moment of warmth, or a temporary sense of relief. But soon the silence returns, and when it does, you feel even more uncertain than before. The Stoics understood that peace begins when you stop placing your emotional stability inside the hands of others. You cannot control who notices you. You cannot control who appreciates you. You cannot force someone to respond with the same depth, loyalty, or sincerity that you offer them, but you can control whether you abandon yourself in the attempt to be chosen. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to focus on what belonged to him, his character, his choices, and his response. The same principle applies to attention. Another person's silence belongs to them. Their distance belongs to them. Their inability to value you belongs to them. But what you do next belongs to you. Will you continue knocking on a door that is repeatedly closed? Will you keep shrinking yourself so that someone else will finally make space for you? Or will you step back, stand quietly, and remember that your worth does not decrease simply because someone failed to recognize it? There is dignity in knowing when to stop. Not every silence needs to be broken. Not every distance needs to be closed. Not every person who withdraws needs to be chased. Sometimes the most powerful response is to let them go where they have already chosen to go. This does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean pretending that rejection does not hurt. It means refusing to turn your pain into self-abandonment. You can miss someone without pursuing them. You can care without begging. You can feel disappointed without humiliating yourself for one more moment of their attention. Your emotions are real, but they do not have to control your actions. When you feel the urge to reach out again, ask yourself, am I speaking because there is something meaningful left to say? Or am I speaking because I am afraid of being forgotten? That question can save you from many painful decisions, because fear often disguises itself as love. It tells you to send one more message, to explain yourself one more time, to prove that you are worthy of staying for. But real connection does not require constant persuasion. Someone who values your presence will not repeatedly make you feel like a burden for existing. They may be busy, they may need space, they may not always communicate perfectly, but you will not constantly feel as though you must earn the right to be acknowledged. There is a difference between patience and self-neglect. Patience gives people room to be human. Self-neglect gives people permission to treat you as optional while you continue treating them as essential. Learn that difference. It will protect your peace. You do not need to become louder to be valued. You do not need to perform, impress, or overgive just to stay visible. The right people will not need to be convinced that your presence matters. And the wrong people will never be satisfied, no matter how much of yourself you sacrifice. So stop exhausting yourself. Stop measuring your worth through replies, invitations, compliments, and temporary affection. Attention is not the same as love. Being noticed is not the same as being respected. And being wanted for a moment is not the same as being valued consistently. You deserve more than occasional attention that arrives only when someone is lonely, bored, or in need of something. You deserve relationships where effort moves in both directions, where silence is not used to punish you, where you do not have to constantly wonder what you mean to someone. But before you receive that kind of connection from others, you must be willing to give it to yourself. Give yourself the attention you keep begging others to provide. Listen to your own thoughts. Take your own pain seriously. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Build a life that does not collapse whenever one person becomes distant. The stronger your relationship with yourself becomes, the less tempted you will be to chase people who offer you crumbs. You will begin to understand that solitude is not always rejection. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes losing someone's attention creates the silence you need to hear your own voice again. And in that silence, you may discover how much of yourself you had neglected while trying to remain important to them. You stopped doing the things that made you feel alive. You ignored your goals. You questioned your personality. You adjusted your boundaries. You became smaller, quieter, and easier to accept. All for the hope that someone would finally turn toward you. But what if the lesson was never about getting them to turn around? What if the lesson was about teaching you to walk forward without them? There is a different kind of power in the person who no longer needs to be pursued, praised, or constantly reassured. They are not arrogant. They are anchored. They know that their value remains intact in both attention and silence. They can receive love without clinging to it. They can experience distance without losing themselves. They can let people leave without chasing them down the road. This is emotional freedom. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel deeply without surrendering your dignity. The next time someone ignores you, do not immediately assume you must do more. Perhaps the answer is to do less. Less explaining, less chasing, less imagining, less abandoning yourself. Step back and observe. Let actions reveal what words have been hiding. Let distance show you where effort truly exists. Let silence give you the answer you were trying to force from another person. And when the answer becomes clear, accept it with calmness. Not every truth arrives through a conversation. Some truths arrive through patterns, through delayed replies, through broken promises, through one-sided effort, through the exhaustion you feel after constantly trying to keep a connection alive by yourself. Pay attention to what the pattern is teaching you. You are not difficult to value. You may simply be asking the wrong person to recognize what they are unwilling or unable to see. Do not take their limitation and turn it into your identity. A closed heart does not mean you are unlovable. An inattentive person does not mean you are unworthy of attention. A failed connection does not mean you have failed as a person. Sometimes people cannot meet you where you are. Accepting that may hurt, but chasing them will hurt longer. So choose the pain that leads to healing. Choose the temporary loneliness of walking away over the constant loneliness of being ignored beside someone. Choose self-respect over temporary relief. Choose silence over another message that betrays your dignity. Let them notice your absence, or let them continue without noticing. Either way, your life must continue. Your purpose is larger than one person's attention. Your future is too valuable to spend waiting beside a silent phone. There are skills to develop, dreams to pursue, people to love, a mind to strengthen, a life to rebuild. Do not waste your days trying to become unforgettable to someone who has already shown you how easily they can overlook you. Become unforgettable to yourself. Become someone you can rely on, someone who does not disappear from their own life just because another person became distant. Someone who can say, "I cared, I tried, but I will not beg." and then walk away without hatred, without revenge, without needing to prove what they lost. That is strength. You do not need to punish people for failing to value you. You only need to stop giving them unlimited access to the parts of you they repeatedly neglect. Let your boundaries speak quietly. Let your absence explain what your words could not. Let your peace become more important than their attention. Because the moment you stop begging to be chosen, something changes within you. You stop living in reaction. You stop waiting for permission to feel worthy. You stop placing your happiness on the other side of someone else's decision, and slowly you return to yourself. That return may be quiet. No dramatic ending, no final speech, no message designed to make them regret losing you, just a decision, a calm, private decision that says, "I will no longer chase what does not choose me." Hold on to that decision, especially on the nights when loneliness makes the past look kinder than it truly was. Remember how often you questioned yourself. Remember how tired you became. Remember that you were not asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. One day, you will be grateful that you stopped. Grateful that you did not send the final message. Grateful that you allowed silence to remain silent. Grateful that you chose your dignity before your desperation could take more from you. Never beg for attention. The attention you force will never satisfy you. The love you chase will never feel safe. And the person you abandon while pursuing others will always be the one you need most. Return to that person. Return to yourself. There is a strange kind of freedom that arrives when you finally stop waiting. Not waiting for the text that never comes. Not waiting for someone to notice your silence. Not waiting for an apology that may never be spoken. For so long, you believed your peace depended on another person's decision. You believed that if they finally chose you, finally appreciated you, finally gave you the attention you longed for, everything inside you would become calm. But peace built on another person's behavior is never truly yours. It can disappear with one unanswered message, one cancelled plan, one cold response, one moment of indifference. That is why the Stoics trained themselves to build an inner fortress, a place no rejection could enter, a place no neglect could destroy, a place where dignity remained untouched, regardless of how the world responded. This does not happen overnight. Your heart will still remember. There will be mornings when you instinctively reach for your phone, hoping their name appears on the screen. There will be moments when your mind whispers, "Maybe this time will be different." Do not judge yourself for those thoughts. Habits of attachment do not disappear the moment you decide to let go. They fade each time you choose self-respect over impulse. Each time you resist sending the message you know you will regret. Each time you allow silence to remain silence. Each time you return your attention to your own life instead of chasing someone else's. These small decisions seem insignificant, but they are quietly rebuilding your character. Most people believe strength is loud. They imagine strength as winning arguments, proving people wrong, or making others regret leaving. But the strongest victories are invisible. No one applauds the moment you decide not to chase. No audience celebrates when you refuse to beg. No one sees the battle inside your mind when loneliness tells you to abandon your dignity one more time. Yet those unseen victories shape the person you become. Every time you choose restraint over desperation, your confidence grows a little stronger. Every time you stop seeking validation outside yourself, your freedom expands. Eventually, something unexpected happens. The people you once chased no longer occupy your thoughts every hour. Their silence loses its power. Their absence becomes ordinary. Not because they changed, because you did. You no longer confuse attention with love. You no longer mistake inconsistency for affection. You no longer believe that being ignored is something you must earn your way out of. You simply accept reality as it is, and reality is often kinder than false hope. Because false hope keeps you trapped. Reality sets you free. If someone values you, their actions will reveal it. If they don't, your acceptance will protect you far better than your persistence ever could. So stop asking where you stand in someone else's life. Stand firmly in your own. Build a life so grounded in purpose, discipline and peace that another person's attention becomes something you appreciate, not something you depend on. That is the quiet strength the Stoics practiced, not becoming emotionless, but becoming unshakable. Because when you no longer beg for attention, you finally have enough attention left to give to the one person who has always deserved it, yourself. And perhaps this is the greatest irony of all. The moment you stop chasing attention is often the moment you become impossible to ignore. Not because you are trying to appear mysterious, not because you are playing games, but because there is something quietly powerful about a person who is content without constant validation. People are drawn to those who are not desperate to be seen. Why? Because desperation asks, peace attracts. Think about the strongest people you have ever met. They were rarely the loudest. They did not compete for every conversation. They did not interrupt to prove their intelligence. They did not constantly remind others of their worth. Instead, they carried themselves with quiet certainty. They understood something many people never learn. A diamond does not announce its value. The sun does not ask to be admired. The mountains do not beg for attention. They simply exist. Steady, unmoved, complete. Your life should become like that, not a performance designed to earn applause, but an expression of your character. When your focus shifts from being noticed to becoming better, everything begins to change. You read more, you think more deeply, you strengthen your body, you discipline your mind, you keep promises to yourself. Little by little, your confidence stops depending on compliments. It begins to grow from evidence. Evidence that you can trust yourself, evidence that you can stand alone, evidence that your happiness is no longer borrowed from someone else's approval. This is why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that the opinions of others were outside his control. He understood that seeking universal approval was a battle no one could win. There will always be people who misunderstand you, people who overlook you, people who fail to appreciate your kindness. Do not spend your life trying to change their minds. Spend it becoming the kind of person whose peace cannot be stolen by their opinions. Because every hour spent trying to convince someone of your worth is an hour taken away from becoming worthy in your own eyes. And that is the only judgment that truly lasts. Imagine looking back 5 years from now. Will you be proud that you spent your energy refreshing your phone, waiting for someone to reply? Or will you be grateful that you invested that same energy into building a life you genuinely love? One path leaves you dependent, the other makes you free. Choose carefully, because attention fades, popularity changes, relationships evolve, but character remains. It follows you through every success and every disappointment. It becomes your companion when everyone else leaves. Protect it, strengthen it, return to it every single day. There is no shame in wanting to be loved. There is no weakness in hoping to be understood. Those desires are deeply human. The danger begins when those desires become conditions for your self-worth. When you start believing that without another person's attention, you are somehow incomplete. You are not incomplete. You were complete before they arrived, and you will remain complete if they leave. Remember that the next time silence tempts you to chase. Remember that the next time loneliness whispers that one more message will fix everything. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is nothing. To let the silence speak, to let reality reveal itself, and to walk forward with your dignity still intact. Because in the end, the greatest victory is not making someone notice you. It is reaching a place where you no longer need them to.